Hi, I'm Hazel, and today I'm doing an overview of how leveling 1 to 50 works in Shadowlands. With the level squish, 50 is equivalent to what was once level 120, and then leveling 50 up to 60 will be the new endgame leveling, so that we'll be doing in the Shadowlands when the expansion releases, but 1 to 50 is going to be playable as soon as the Shadowlands pre-patch drops. With the level squish, they have majorly redone how leveling a new character actually works, and while it may sound more complicated on paper, I promise you once you get in playing it, it does make more sense than what we have previously had anyways. So, the leveling experience is going to be different depending on whether or not you are brand new to WoW. People that are leveling their first ever WoW character are going to level 1 to 10 through the new Exile's Reach starting zone, and then 10 to 50 in Battle for Azeroth content. After that, they get delivered gently into the Shadowlands, and that whole storyline should make a modicum of sense. For the rest of us, we get more options. If your new character is a Death Knight or a Demon Hunter, you're going to start at level 8. Allied race characters will start at level 10. If it's an Allied race Death Knight, it's going to start at level 10. These characters will skip the starting zones and then get dropped in right at the next step, which we'll get to shortly. Everyone else, as long as it's not their first character, will get a choice of where to start. So the first choice for leveling 1 to 10 is Exile's Reach. This zone is a brand new starting area coming to WoW with the pre-patch. It is mandatory for brand new players, but it is a strong option for anyone. I would say you should extra consider choosing Exile's Reach if you are starting a Pandaren, a Worgen, or a Goblin, since their starting areas take just as long, if not longer, to finish. So you can play through Exile's Reach in about 35 to 45 minutes if you're going at a good pace, and it'll take a little longer if you're going to explore and take your time, or of course if you're new and you're just kind of getting your hands around the ropes. This starting experience will introduce you to your abilities more slowly and has extra class quests that kind of serve as tutorials for major early class moments such as hunters learning to tame their first pet. If you're starting a character of a class that is brand new to you, Exile's Reach is a great place to kind of learn it because it's going to really walk you through your first buttons. There's even a short introductory dungeon experience at the end of Exile's Reach that you can do with between 1 and 5 players, so you can do it alone if you're getting started, but if you're leveling with some friends, you guys can do it together to kind of get a feel for what dungeon running is like on those new characters. You should ding level 10 right as you leave Exile's Reach, and it'll bring you to Stormwind or Orgrimmar once you're done. Any Pandaren who choose to start in Exile's Reach are going to select a faction before they enter right at the start. If that's not for you, the traditional starting zones are still there as an option. You get a choice when you make that character to either go to Exile's Reach or your normal racial starting zone, and of course once you're there you can go wherever you want, really, like normal. This is not necessarily faster than Exile's Reach, but it will still get you to level 10 in under an hour if you're paying attention. Either way, once you have made it to level 10, you get to basically pick an expansion to level with to 50. By default, and for new players, you head to Battle for Azeroth zones and level there. That is the newest content to level in, and it's a perfectly good option, especially if you did your Battle for Azeroth Pathfinder. You won't be able to fly right from level 10, but as soon as you hit level 30 and train flying, you'll be able to fly for the rest of your leveling experience. If this is not your first character though, you will get your choice of expansion to level in. You will find yourself directed to Chromie in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, located near the embassy, who gives you the option of Chromie Time. With Chromie Time, you're going to choose an expansion from Cata, BC, Wrath, Mop, Wad, or Legion. A Cataclysm here includes both the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor standard zones, like your Westfall and your Silverpine, as well as the Cataclysm expansion zones, including Vashj'ir and Deepholm. When you make your choice and activate Chromie Time, every expansion will scale to you regardless of which one you chose. You can travel between them to quest elsewhere at will if you want without necessarily having to come back and visit Chromie. So the expansion does now scale to your level, but you cannot do whatever you want right at level 10. You're going to start in the early expansion zones, and then as you progress between levels 10 and 50, the later expansion zones will start to unlock. So as an example, if you choose to level in Warlords of Draenor, you're going to start in Shadowmoon for Alliance or Frostfire for Horde at level 10, you can start Gorgrond at level 15, Talador at level 20, Spires of Arak at level 30, and then Nagrand at 35. For Legion, the 4 main starter zones are available from level 10, and then you can go to Suramar, the Broken Shore, and Argus starting at level 45, so not a lot of time spent in those, but they were endgame zones. If you choose Cataclysm, you get to do the expansion zones such as Mount Hyjal starting at level 30, which is when you unlock flying. It's important to note that you most likely will not be finishing an entire expansion while leveling 1 to 50. You will probably have plenty of quests left over at the end when you hit level 50, but you don't have to leave and move between expansions unless that's something that you want to do. You can feasibly stay in one expansion and get all the way to 50 without running out of content to do. As far as dungeons go, you can queue for dungeons from the timeline that you chose at Chromie. So if you want to queue for Burning Crusade dungeons, you need to choose Burning Crusade Chromie Time. If you want a different expansion's dungeons, you can either go back to Chromie and change it, or you could join a party with someone that selected your desired dungeon's timeline. Basically, you just don't need to fiddle around with matching Chromie expansions with your friends if you guys want to do dungeons together. As long as somebody in the party has the correct Chromie Time selected, you will be able to queue for that Chromie Time's expansion's dungeon. Like with the zones, early expansion dungeons are available right away at level 10, and then more unlock as you level. So while you're doing all of this, when do you get different mount training? So here is the chart. You're basically going to be able to train slow ground mounts at level 10, fast ground mounts at level 20, slow flying at level 30, and fast flying at level 40. You may notice that there is no more 280% flying. You're going to go straight from 150% to 310%. Any characters that might have been at 280% before the pre-patch will have been upgraded to 310, and you only have one very expensive flight training instead of two now. That's nice. Heirlooms are still around and you can still use them for leveling. There is no more experience bonus on them, but they do have set bonuses that will give you more mileage from your rested experience, as well as a strong short buff whenever you level, among other things depending on how many pieces that you're wearing. That main stat buff is pretty nice. Especially early on, you find yourself leveling often enough to maintain a really good uptime on that buff. On Exile's Reach during the first 10 levels, it was occasionally lasting almost until the next level. Heirlooms are also, I feel, still worth it because of their scaling stats. It's just one less slot that you have to worry about replacing. I also find it really convenient that you can transmog your heirlooms once early in your leveling experience and then enjoy that transmogged appearance all the way to level 50 without needing to redo it every time you upgrade a piece of armor. Speaking of upgrades, heirloom upgrades are still in the game. They have the same gold cost as ever, and there are still just as many tiers. It's just that the levels that they scale to have been squished down. So a basic non-upgraded heirloom will scale from 1 to 29. You can then buy items to upgrade them to scale to levels 35, 40, 45, and 50. The chauffeured chopper heirloom mount is still around and still useful. You get that one after achieving the heirloom hoarder achievement for learning 35 heirlooms, and you get to use that mount right from level 1, including in the new Exile's Reach starting zone. It's not as much of a big deal as it used to be, since you're able to train the basic ground mount at level 10, which you're going to get in under an hour. But you know, if you want to be mounted during that first hour, then the chauffeured chopper is the way to go. Another thing you can take advantage of are the Relics of the Past. These are brand new. They are optional crafting regions that can be made at different levels and with any expansion's mats. You can use those while crafting a piece of armor to scale it to your level and item level. So for example, let's say that you choose Pandaria to level in and you are a hunter and a leatherworker. You can train Pandaren leatherworking right away, craft a Relic of the Past, and use it when crafting an armor piece to create a piece of armor that is wearable at your level. You can do this again at the following levels, so it's a great way of using materials in the expansion you're leveling in to create gear that you can use at your level. If you have heirlooms, it's unlikely that you'll need to use these, but if you get like one item slot that you just cannot find a quest reward to replace, Relics of the Past are a way to custom make yourself a relevant piece of gear. So that is 1 to 50 leveling. I'm really looking forward to trying out a bunch of different leveling routes and techniques and methods and kind of mixing and matching and trying to find out my new favorite way to level. My old favorite way that involved a lot of gathering is not going to be as good anymore. They're severely nerfing gathering experience that you get when you pick like an herb or a mining node, so I'm gonna have to come up with something else. But I have a good feeling about questing through the early Cataclysm zones like the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, because those zones were originally designed without flying in mind, and some of them without any mount in mind at all. Travel time should be much faster in those than trying to scrape yourself around someplace like Outland. So that's my first plan, is to try leveling in those original early zones. So hitting up zones like Westfall and Darkshore and Wetlands and, you know, Silverpine Forest, that kind of thing, seeing how far I can get, but I've still got some experimenting to do. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think and have a wonderful, wonderful day.